Hello everyone, thank you so much for coming. This is so wonderful to see so many people show up for this panel discussion. My name is Kathleen McGainch. I'm one of the city co-founders of Ladies That UX, so this group here. My partner in crime is Ashley Keller over there. She's going to be helping me with the slide deck over here. We're just going to start off with like a quick little introduction and then we'll get into the panel discussion. So first off, I wanted to give a big thank you to Olio Digital Labs, who is our event sponsor. And you see, we appreciate the word. We really appreciate their help. So I'm going to just allow. That wasn't supposed to be there. We're just rolling with it. It's fine.
Melanie's photographing the updates too.
Yeah, we appreciate.
Yep. And then Melanie as well. Thank you so much for helping out with the photography. So I'm just going to let Derek come up and have a couple words.
I thought I had time for like 15 minutes.
Oh.
No? You don't want to hear me for 15 minutes. My name is Derek Silva. I've met some of you before and you already heard me introduce myself probably already tonight, but regardless, that's me. I work here at Olio Digital Labs. I wear about a dozen different hats, so if you have a question, I could probably answer it for you. Unless it's the back-end code stuff, then I'll point you to somebody else. We're fairly new, about almost 2 years old now. Result of the dissolution of a previous partnership here in town, but everybody seems doing well as a result of it, so that's okay. We mostly do custom web app development. We do some websites as well. Mostly what we focus on is web apps that actually help businesses run their operations. Some really big customers who we do that for. So if you have a need for integration or any custom web development or anything like that, or even a website, feel free to talk to us. I'm sure Melissa would love to talk to you as well. But little competitiveness is not a bad thing. Yeah, thanks a lot for coming. Great to see you turn out for Ladies Day, which is still really fresh. So it's awesome that so many people are coming out to the events, and we're happy to host. So if you have an event like this you need space for as well, let us know. I'll get the temperature turned down by then. It's all me. Yeah, so thanks for coming out. Have a great time. All right.
Thanks, Derek. And as always, I like to have this slide in here. A big thank you to you guys for coming out. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That's true. There's this hashtag here. So a huge thank you out to you guys. If it wasn't for you, we wouldn't be able to have this group, right? Ladies That UX. We're very focused on our members, and it's you guys that make the group. So thanks so much for coming. Now, as Derek said, we have the hashtag.
Sorry.
It's okay. We have a hashtag LTUXLDT. I have to really take my time with that because it's kind of a mouthful. But if you can please take pictures and share your experience online, we'd love to see the meetups from your perspective. So we have a couple of them. We have it posted around too if you forget. And tag us too. And I just want to show some of the people, some of our members have been posting about our events. So our last event was, the theme was lean coffee. And it was a really cool event where we all got together and we were able to talk about UX and different topics around UX, and we use this format called Lean Coffee, which is much like the Agile methodology. It's kind of like you make a backlog of topics you want to talk about, you put in the one you're talking about, and you talk about it for like 8 minutes, then you do a little vote if you guys want to keep talking about it, and if you do, then you keep talking. If you're done, you put it in done, and you just kind of go like that. It's like a really efficient way to have some meaningful conversation. So we had some, I really appreciate Sasha, Samantha, and Cora sharing online, so thanks. And then I see a couple, I see familiar faces, and I also see some that I haven't seen before here at our meetup. So I just want to give a little background to our group. So Ladies That UX was actually founded in Manchester, UK, about 3 years ago by two girls, Lizzie Dawson and Georgie Bottomley. And they used to work together, and one night after work they kind of went out for some drinks and they were just talking, and what they noticed was there was a real imbalance, like a gender imbalance in their industry, and they didn't really have anyone to look up to. So they decided to start this group to meet more women in UX, and it just kind of grew from there. So they wanted to create a friendly and welcoming and collaborative community, and they truly succeeded. So if you look at the next slide, you can see that there's over 45 cities worldwide that are run Ladies That UX meetups, and London, Ontario happened to be number 42, and we're the second one in Canada, so the first one being Vancouver, so that's really cool for our city.
We beat Toronto or something.
Yeah, we did.
So without further ado, we can get started. So I just want to give you a little rough agenda. So we have a really fun night planned for everyone. We're going to meet the panelists, then we're going to have the panel discussion, then we're going to open the floor up so you guys can ask any questions that you may want to hear from our very talented and superstar panelists. And then we'll just kind of end with some closing thoughts.
Okay, great. So welcome, panelists. Well, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us here. We are very excited to have you. And just for those of us who haven't met you before, I thought it would be really great to do some introduction. Just briefly, maybe you could introduce yourself to the group, and then talk a little bit about your current role right now, and maybe what user experience means to you. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm Julie Barge, and I'm the Associate Manager for Visual Design at London Life. And I've just recently moved over to digital services. I was in print design previous to that, and I've been in print design since about 2000. So digital and UX is relatively new to me. And what does it mean to me? It's like the whole user experience. It really is all-encompassing, and I hope to see that grow in the future. So it's as soon as a customer or a user engages with anything on screen, and hopefully the experience before that leads up to it. So everything to how we interact with it, to how you get around, to how you feel about it as you're in it. To me, that's a full user experience.
That's really great. Thank you, Julie. And Diana.
Hi everyone, I'm Caballero. I'm a senior designer at ResIM. Same as Julie, I sort of started in the print world, and then I've been slowly moving towards the web. At ResIM, we're trying to focus more and more in UX. So for me, UX, see it becoming more like a product, like something we have to promise and deliver. And it doesn't only encompass the web world, like it's everywhere around us and every little thing we do. So I don't know, it's hard for me to step aside and not see it as a whole thing. And yeah, we're just really excited to be here and share my knowledge with you guys.
Thank you so much. That's really great. Darla?
So hi, I'm Darla Corbett, and I'm the Assistant Vice President for what we call the Advisor Digital Experience for London Life, Great West Life, and Canada Life. And I've probably been in the world of technology before most of you were born, looking around there. I'd say most of you are probably the same age as my children, including all the panelists up here. So I've certainly seen a lot over my career. I started off as a software developer back in 1983. So I've seen a lot of technology change over time, but I've gone through the whole gambit in my career, from a software developer to systems analyst to moving into management, and then moving out of IT and into the business to help the business figure out what their strategy should be in terms of helping the company advance. And I work with advisors all over the country. We have accountability for about 50,000 advisors to help them understand what digital means to them today and how that's going to change what the advisor's experience is really about. But a user experience to me really encompasses everything from tools and technology all the way through to the business processes. So most important thing to me is, what does that process or that sales process look like now for my advisor audience? And that happens to cover off the digital side.
That's really great, Darla.
Awesome. My name is Melissa McInerney. I know some of the people in the room here. I am the CEO and creative director at TVK Creative. My background started in communications, so I kind of haphazardly found myself in the role really after about, I would say 7 years ago. TBK Creative isn't my first business. I've run many businesses and all were technology and dev focused. So I've actually been working alongside developers for the past about 11 years. And during that process, running creative, my background is as a designer, so kind of working, starting at first inside of print and then moving over, but also with a key focus on communications with my background. TBK Creative as an agency is really committed to great user experience. It's something that defined us when we got started 6 years ago because the two founders of the company, Andrew Schiestel and myself, were not programmers. So we've always put user experience first and what are we communicating. So it's been a key, it's been something that we've been working towards for the past 6 years, and it's very amazing to see other groups care and be committed to not just the way that something clicks and functions, but to the way it communicates, to how quickly it loads, to the experience that you go from off screen to on screen to off screen again, then back to onto a different screen. So it's been something we focused on for 6 years, and I think the entire industry is made quite a big change. And so user experience for me really means happy users. So whatever that user, like happy users, we actually say at TBK Creative, each is responsible for different things, and I'm responsible for happy users. And whatever those users are looking for, how they're coming to the site, what they're emotionally experiencing, what they're going through, how does copy speak to that, how does design speak to that, how does the experience speak to that, how do we make that person happy through the entire process?
Wow, that's really great. I think what's very interesting as a theme I'm noticing throughout as you're all speaking is that somehow you found user research. The backgrounds were different, and through your experience in different technologies and industries, you've arrived there. Is that kind of how you feel about it? Like, when did you start to recognize UX or user experience as an actual thing you do? Any thoughts on that?
I think I can speak into that because really it's been a focus, like I said, a focus of TBK Creatives for quite a long time. But there was no education for user experience. In fact, when we were getting going, God, what was being taught at Fanshawe, there was terrible. There were certain things being taught at Fanshawe that weren't even really about user experience. It was all focused on click function, click function, click function. If it clicked, it was good. If it loaded, it was good.
Yeah.
And that was the end of the conversation. So it's been really amazing to see how people migrate themselves to this industry. When I'm looking around in the room, I see people that might have actually been trained in user experience, potentially through a program, depending on where you went to school. And that's really exciting because we need that in the industry. We do need people that bring methodology approaches to the work. So everything's finding a definition, which I find is really exciting, and people are doing the training, and at the same time things are going to change so lightning fast that being able to be moldable and flexible throughout the next 5-10 years is going to be important as well.
Yeah, it's really great. And Darlis, yourself coming from a background of software development and then getting into the business, like, can you kind of recall, like, maybe when the word experience or user experience started to become a thing?
Well, I can't really say I can remember when it started to become a thing other than most recently. But what I do remember, I mean, even back in the days when I was a software developer, I mean, we were still cognizant of the fact that it had to be a good experience for our users. Our downfall was that we thought we knew what that meant, right? So we drove that experience, and well, we know this is what this business person needs or this advisor needs, so we'll just build it that way. And as you guys know, I mean, that's a sure recipe for failure, right?
Yeah.
When did I become aware that user experience was really a big, becoming a big thing? I would say it was probably when I met Sean at London Light and been with us all that long. But it was certainly becoming more prevalent in the industry. And for me, what I recognized was I don't have a UX background. That's not my background. But what I did know was, engaging your team and having your folks, provide that expertise for me was what was going to be success for me in making sure that my advisors had the right experience. Not my experience, the right experience.
That's really great. So it kind of takes us into our first question, maybe telling us a bit about your role. Maybe we could take a turn. This might be a bit of a longer question, but how you got to your current position throughout time and what the responsibilities are in job. You could talk a little bit about day in the life of what you do. Julie, if you want to start us off.
Yeah, so a day in the life of what I do, I guess, would be, so I manage a team of 5 designers right now. So that's new to me too, kind of overseeing the visuals of the projects that come through. So what we're focused on and what I'm focused on is a lot of research, because we're putting kind of, our team is really in charge of choosing the photos and styling every bit of graphic comes, choosing the font, so making that kind of emotional connection with the user. So and keeping up with trends, because really you do have to put that final polish on that makes your website and your product seem current and up to date. And that's really about researching. So as Starla or Nancy, my desktop's full of like screenshots. I'm constantly, every time I'm online, I'm taking screenshots of things that I love or things that I think we could use. So a lot of research is based on what I'm doing during the day between meetings. So, meetings with people from Darlis's team on the new projects that are coming in and understanding the scope of that. One of the things, because our team is so new, is working together as a team. So the one thing I noticed that's quite different about user experience in building websites from where I came, where you kind of owned a job on your own as a designer. That might have, like, you're working with business partners and you're trying to keep everyone happy. But in our industry, in this new industry, it's such a team effort. And it's not just one person that owns the project. You're working with, someone that's been wireframing the project, and they're passing over that sketch file. You're meeting with the developers to see, is this possible? What are we doing? So a lot of it's kind of coordinating and communicating and making sure everyone feels part of what we're building and that we're understanding your strategy, the strategy that comes down. So that's part of my day, and then presenting materials is part of my day. So communicating what we're trying to do with the business, make them understand, why it's valuable or why we're approaching it in a certain way. And that's kind of what my day is like. Not a little bit different, I guess. I'm working in print in the background, or in my in the history of what I've been doing. A lot of it was still research based and looking around at what the trends are. But again, kind of more working in isolation, I think. So I've just always personally, I think I got to this point of being a visual designer because that's just my natural strength and it's what I love to do, and I've kind of always followed my passion and followed what comes with the central instinct to me. So I think that's kind of how it naturally migrated into a visual role.
Great. And you started out in Toronto?
In Toronto, yeah. So I went to Western, got my BA in Fine Arts, and then I thought, what am I going to do with this? I don't know. I can go to Teachers College or go to school for interior design. That didn't even cross my mind. I guess we had started to use, we were online at Western and stuff, so I thought, okay, I'll go to school for graphic design. So I just did the post-grad. I kind of wrapped it up in 1 year, and then made up stuff in my portfolio because it's all about your portfolio. And then hit the streets and visited every studio. I thought that was cool in Toronto because I wanted to see what they're all about. And then eventually landed my first job. So it was awesome. That's been quite the ride, yeah.
Yeah. Quite a journey from print design, starting out in fine art, and then finding your way to a digital medium.
And digital, this past year and a half, I think digital's so new. It kind of feels like I'm learning all over again, and it's really exciting. Yeah, it's wonderful.
It's really great.
Sure. So I'm from Mexico, so I graduated in graphic design, and when I graduated, I thought, oh, I'm going to do print. I just fell in love with print, and that's what I'm going to do. So after that, I decided to go to Spain and did some editorial design, and then things happened and shifted, and I ended up in Canada about 5 years ago. And when I arrived here, I had no idea about the web. I hit it because it's funny how much a professor can influence your education. My web designer professor taught me to code using tables, and so I was like, so what happens if I want to do a website that can't fit in a table? And you're like, well, we can't do anything. Serious? And I just started to develop this hate towards the web because it felt like something so rigid. And I'm like, I can't even explore my creativity. No, I'm gonna go to print. So I got here to Canada, and I mean, you notice that web is taking off and that it's going to become the next thing, and you have to keep up, otherwise you're going to be left behind. So I'm like, okay, I hate it, but I'm going to give it a try. So I took some courses. I went to OCAD for web. I learned HTML and CSS, and they introduced me to divs, and I was like, oh my god, like this is completely different from tables. And so then I learned about responsive design, and my mind was just like blowing. Like it was amazing. Like, okay, so I like this. So I started reading about it, teaching myself, and then when it come time to apply for a job here in Canada, my situation was a little tricky because I came as a tourist, so you need a work permit to be able to work, but you need a job offer to be able to apply for a work permit. And so it's like it's so hard, and some companies actually just tell you, sorry, we're not taking applications other than from residents and stuff like that. So that makes it even harder. So I started applying mostly Toronto and here in London, and get a few interviews, and they were like, yeah, your portfolio is great, it's mostly print, but yeah, we're looking for someone with a little bit of experience, you know, like, I'm like, okay, like, I was applying for junior positions, I'm like, just give me a chance and let me get that experience that I need, you know, and like, sorry, maybe next time. I'm like, okay, so after months and months of trying, I was getting frustrated. I'm like, okay, they need experience, I'm just gonna step up my freelance game, and then I started volunteering and just getting more jobs that I could put on the portfolio. And so finally, after months of looking, somebody came to me like, okay, we can give you a 3-month contract, sort of a probation. I'm like, yeah, but I need more like a year contract for my work permit to work out. And it's like, and then I kind of negotiated a bit and said, okay, how about I intern with you for a month, and they like what I do, then you hire me for a year. It's like, okay, deal. So it worked out, and that's how I got my break here in Canada and doing web. And then after that, I don't know, this is more a little bit of a personal story, but moving to Canada was hard, like leaving everything behind, friends, family, the minus 40 degrees out there and salt. And so like, I feel like I lost part of who I am, you know, like I started doing things that I knew I liked, and then that started affecting my job, like my work. I kind of lost that passion and, you know, that thrive. And I'm like, what's going on? I feel like I'm the worst designer in the world. Like, is this even what I want to do? And so I decided to make some change at a personal level. So I started doing things that I enjoyed and started meeting people, finally made some friends, and that completely changed the way I was seeing. So my current boss, Jonathan, who's not here, but he has a really cool phrase that says, like, there's not really a work and life balance, everything is just life. So like I hadn't understood it until that point when I was feeling depressed and I had no friends, no family, and my work was just declining, my confidence was like 0. I'm like, so I'm gonna make a change. So that's when I also decided to make a professional move, and that's when I got the opportunity to join Res. And it's been a year now. I've been working there for a year, and I feel like I finally like that thing that I love doing, and I found it, and I'm doing it at a place that I enjoy doing it at. So yeah, it was a little bit of a roller coaster, but it's good that it's good to just explore, you know, like you think when you graduate you're going to do that, just allow yourself to explore, to make mistakes, to find out what it is that you love doing. And so at Res, I work with UX researchers and strategists. So we first gather data through research to find what's the problem that we want to solve. And then we gotta determine who are we solving it for. And once that's done, then we move until planning, strategy, and designing. And then I work with an amazing front-end developer who's over there, Justine. And then we make sure we bring this thing to life. And then we go back out there and expose ourselves to the users and test this thing that we built. And we make iterations accordingly, you know, like did it work? Is it satisfying the needs? And now we go back to the drawing board, keep testing, and yeah, that's pretty much in a nutshell. So my work is a little bit of meetings, a lot of research and planning, brainstorming sessions. Sometimes I'm at the computer, just designing, sketch, and doing revisions of the revisions of the revisions. And some other days I'm not even touching the computer, out there with the users, just learning from them. So I like it because it's a little bit of everything. Like I feel like no day is identical to the next one. And I think that that's important. It keeps you fresh and keeps you motivated. Yeah.
Wow, it's an incredible journey. That's really great. Thank you for sharing that with us. Darlis, did you want to tell us a bit about where you started? And
Sure. So I wish I could say that I thought this was a calling that I had to do. The truth is, when I started out in 1983, I think it was really about finding a job that would pay good money. And technology was where it was at back then, right? So I got into software development, graduated from Fanshawe, and started working at a small company called Fram. They produce filters for cars, located in Stratford, making $6.50 an hour. So I was really wrong at that time about finding a job for good money. Stayed there for only 6 months and then made my way to Toronto and started to work for a couple of other companies in Toronto before I found my way back to London, which was where my parents are located. My dad was in the military, so we traveled all over and finally found our home here. And by then I'd already had one child and thought that London was a good place to make a home for him. And so I've been with the company since 1989. That's when I made the move to London. And in IT. So came into IT as a software developer, eventually moved into systems analysis. And that's where I would say I really discovered a passion for working with the business and helping business move forward and strategize and figure out where they needed to go and how technology could empower them to get there. But I would say that at that point in time, and I'd already been in the career for quite some time already, that's when it dawned on me. You know what, I chose the right career, this is what I want to do. But being in IT wasn't the be-all, end-all for me because I always felt closer to my business partners than I did with my peers in IT. So making the move out into the business in 2011 was a great move. So it took quite a while, from 89 through to 2011. But when the business asked me to join them and help them, strategize and create vision for technology for the field force, I thought that's a great thing for me to do. So a day in the life for me requires a lot of travel. I'm on the road a lot, probably on the road every other week. So I think I looked back at my flights last year and I had 85 flights, 85 points, I wish, 85 flights. One of the things that really excites me about my role is that I do get to work with Ashley and her team. And so having this young, creative team come in and help us understand how we can just really take that experience for our advisors to the next level has reinvigorated me and my leaders and the rest of my team. So just, having Ashley come in and the way they conduct their sessions, all of this stuff is new, so I'm learning all over again. I thought I knew everything, but apparently I don't. So just having them come in and the way they conduct sessions and, bring stuff back and we can bring it back out to the field and it's clickable stuff, it's touchable, it's not me going out there anymore and saying, see this PowerPoint, we want to give you a screen that looks like this. It's not about that anymore, right? And it's much more powerful. And, it certainly helps to build credibility. So I rely heavily on my UX team at home. But that's pretty much a day in my life.
That's really great. Thank you. Wow, it's quite a journey to go from development to working with the business and customers and two very, you think would be different mindsets, like analyzing and the logic behind development and systems analysis, and then now taking that to more of a strategy level. It's very interesting.
It's been great.
Cool. Thank you.
I talked a little bit about how I got here, but I want to talk a little bit about the day in my life. So as a creative director at TBK Creative, my days are always very different. But I'll talk about what a project looks like how we'll approach a project. Very often a project starts with sitting down with the client, talking about business needs and business problems and what had the project even become a priority. What goals are they looking to see out of the project? Who are we building the project for, whether an internal system, an external system, talking about the needs of the project. And that, I find, is quite a lengthy process. Some projects, it can be 2 weeks, so it can go by kind of quickly. Some projects, that discovery process takes months. because a lot of things are uncovered. And the way that we approach it at TBK Creative, and what excites me, is I love to fix problems. And we do have to make users happy, but we also have to ensure that what we're building is something the internal group can use. What kind of resources do they have? How are they going to handle the information? Who's going to handle putting information in and taking information out? And what other internal systems do they have that this may need to connect into? And how do we make this tool actually usable? And that matters because there are a lot of IT projects, and I don't know if this stat holds true today, but there was a statistic about 3 or 4 years ago that 80% of IT projects would fail. Yeah, and the 2 key factors were budget and expectations were managed. And I still think that that's an issue in the industry. I still think that that's something that has to be put on the table at the very beginning of a project, and that's what the discovery is for. So we try to get every piece of information we possibly can so that that project doesn't become a statistic in the 80%. And that's managing expectations. So we get everything from looping in sales teams. So we bring salespeople to the table and say, what are your problems? You know, on the ground level, we bring customer service in. We're saying customer service, what are your issues? Because what customer service experiences is not what management and marketing experiences. So we're doing this data gathering process that depending on the project can go quite long, and then we're sitting, you know, our team's analyzing the data, we're sitting back, and then we are making recommendations on how we're going to attack that project. So it's a lot of meetings with clients. I love those meetings. I love fixing problems clients didn't know they could fix with technology, which is really exciting to be able to make. I'm all about business process. So when you say that, I'm like, yes. Because if you build something that other people can't use, don't have the resources to use, it is a failed project no matter how good you do it. So putting that out on the table and being clear what those limitations are internally at a company really matters. So understanding what we're doing, and then it goes into wireframing. And I currently wireframe at TBK Creative. So I've been wireframing now for 11 years. I love the process of it. And before I even wireframe, I've got my list of what problems we're fixing and what goals we're doing on the website. And I'm very tied into the research that's coming out from, different places, Nielsen and different navigation systems. Work and life really aren't separated. And for me, if I had to do research during 9 to 5, I think I'd be in big trouble because it would never happen. But what I do very often, and I heard somebody was kind of pinning photos on their desktop. I said pinning, but
Julie, yeah.
Julie, I need inspiration at almost like a silly rate in terms of just seeing new ideas. And one cool place that I go, and I know this isn't, I don't know how common this is, but Pinterest, who uses Pinterest? Okay, like 80% of my Pinterest is digital. It's not even my fashion board or my other stuff board. I follow a ton of amazing designers, and I do it at night, I do it in the morning, like I do it all hours, and I have these great boards that I'm constantly pinning. So if I had to leave my research up to 9 to 5, and I don't know where everyone's going to go here, but you might find yourself really resource strapped if you're at an agency and monstrously busy. So it's really, if you're inspired by this industry, you're just going to find ways to do it inside of your regular social networking. So I really encourage that with our team. So we wireframe after looking at design options. Then we go into design. I don't do design anymore. I'm not as good as our designer, and I would take a lot longer. So it goes to our design team, and then it goes to clients and back and forth, and then we're getting as quickly into a prototype from a navigation perspective as quickly as we can to ensure that, it's going to work really smoothly for the navigation, and from there, front-end development, back-end development, testing, it goes through a whole bunch of stages. But I do a lot of facilitation with clients. I'm working with our design team. I'm working with our SEO team. I'm working with our account managers. Web takes a village to build. And I love that. It's really such a collaborative environment. You're constantly learning from other people. So it's a lot of facilitation back and forth. So a day in the life of me is mostly meetings. Which isn't a bad thing. I love that. Mostly meetings and problem solving for clients internally, yeah.
Wow, that's great. You're all different roles and at different stages in your career, but there are definitely some common threads throughout that kind of hearing. Having it was very interesting. Darla, I was nodding when Melissa mentioned 80% of technology projects fail. Have you ever heard a statistic
Absolutely.
like that?
Yeah. Oh, yes. That statistic's been around for quite a while.
Yeah. It's pretty crazy. And I think it's interesting to see this shift in our industry. I think we all kind of spoke to it, how understanding the problem, going out to talk to users first and gathering that information up front, making sure that you're on track before you even get to the design. Might seem like a shift in the industry where we started with PowerPoint presentations of this is what the screen might look like, and then we'll build it and see if you like it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You know you're going to like it.
You gotta like it.
That's right.
That's really great. So that kind of is a great segue into, what do you know now, where you are currently in your field, that you wish you had known when you first started? It's kind of a broad question. You can take this in any direction that kind of maybe springs to your mind, but feel free. I'll kind of open it up to anyone who wants to take that on, maybe something that you wish you had known when you first started out.
The one thing, because you gave us a list of questions, so I was kind of thinking about this. I know this small studio, the second studio I worked at in Toronto, we were doing web design back in 2001. Maybe I should have stuck with that a little bit. It would have been interesting to see where that would have led. At the time, I loved print too. I loved paper. I love finishes. I loved something really tactile. But the one thing I think I would have told myself was, because I used to get so personally attached to every design I made, and then you would fight for it, right? You fight for your design along the way, just to let it go, because there's always the next project. So I think after 10 years of being in the industry, there's always the next project to make it even more beautiful piece, or maybe try something that you didn't get a chance to. I used to get really passionate about my ideas. I think that's and you personally hurt if someone didn't like the direction we're taking something. So yeah, that's the advice I would give myself. But I don't. Yeah, so that was a little bit.
Yeah, separating yourself from your work.
Separating yourself from
identify with that.
We talked about that before.
Yeah, absolutely. Deanna, did you anything that you might have told yourself?
I think I sort of mentioned it already. Your professors aren't always right, and just trust instincts and your guts.
Yeah, that was a really powerful message when you were speaking. It's true. I thought I heard tables were coming back though. I'm out of here. Just kidding.
Our legacy systems are built on that.
Douglas, anything you go back and tell yourself when you were first starting out? And
things. I would say it didn't dawn on me till late in my career that I was the only one in control of my career.
Oh, wow.
So when you're working for a large company, you always feel like the company is going to advance you, look out for you, find that next best job. And that's not true, right? We always need to be in control of our own careers. And if I had known many, many years ago the things that I do now whenever I move into a new role, I look for that person around me that I can use as a coach or a mentor. So in the last, I would say, decade of my career, I have always had a personal coach. And I don't mean somebody outside of the company, it's somebody within the company. And I typically look to strong female women, or strong females in the company that are, a couple levels higher than I am. So if they're at the senior vice president, executive vice president level, that I can, talk to, figure out how do I break that glass ceiling that exists in large companies. So if I had known that years ago, I would like to think that maybe I would be a little further along than I am today.
Wow. When I read the question, the first thought that went through my mind is there's stuff I wish I knew, like a few weeks ago. When I read it, I thought, really big moments? No, not really anything, because I think I've grown, and I wonder why. I've learned so many things that I couldn't even put it all in a book, so why wouldn't there be a few that stand out? And I think the thing for me is I'm really comfortable with being uncomfortable. This industry has changed so rapidly. There was a day where I'm pitching social media campaigns before people are agreeing that Facebook's called social media. I kid you not. And I think for me, when I read the question, I thought, I'm just, there's going to be things you know, in 30 days, I wish I had known 30 days ago. And it's actually really common in technology, and things are moving so quickly that I've just grown accustomed to being uncomfortable. So I don't really, you know, kind of wish anything like that. And I think my piece of advice there is just keep going forward and doing the absolute best that you can do in the moment with the information that you have.
Absolutely. And Douglas, when you mentioned the importance of having a mentor, it actually ties in nicely with when we first in group. I'm not sure how many you were able to attend our first session, but Kathleen spoke about the importance of having a mentor and setting your sights that high. And that's actually one of the reasons I wanted to have this session today, so that you could see some examples of women who have succeeded in their senior positions in their career. So that's really great. So now that we've talked a little bit about your past, I guess we can start to speak a little bit about you know, what's going on right now. And a few of the questions that we thought might be interesting were maybe speaking a little bit about what you think makes someone stand out in the field, working in the digital space and working with technology. Like what kind of pulls you to someone, or maybe even to a person, but maybe a company, even if you can't think of a person, that are doing interesting things in this space and that you identify with. Any thoughts on what do you think makes someone stand out?
Not sure stand out, but definitely to succeed in the UX industry, I think that you have to be very curious. Like, always be asking yourself why, you know, like it's all about asking why at the right moment. And in more of a designer view, you have to have the ability of accepting that that your work might always be right. You know, like put all this effort into the gorgeous homepage, and then you're out there testing it until then nobody saw the apply button that you needed for them to see. So it takes a little bit of a lot from a designer to just put aside that ego and, you know, like, okay, I'm gonna go just accept the faith that it's gonna happen. If it works out, then it's amazing. If not, I have to go back and redo it. So I think curiosity and just having that mental state of like, okay, I don't know it all. You know, I'm still finding that out.
Yeah, absolutely. Any other thoughts on maybe?
I can speak to that because I've sent a few people in here messages in the past on LinkedIn. I think that hiring for the position of somebody who is responsible for user experience is one of the hardest hires an agency needs to make. That's because there's not necessarily a program that just pops people out saying they're ready to go now and user experience are going to be awesome. But when I do interview for somebody who has a user experience background, I look for somebody who is a really great communicator. A great communicator to me signals somebody who can ask the right questions, somebody who's comfortable with themselves. Why communication matters is because you're going to facilitate with an entire team. You are not going to be on an island. You're going to have an idea and sell it to somebody who maybe disagrees with you wholeheartedly. You know, you might have to take that idea and let go of the idea, so a lack of ego. Like somebody who is really strong presence, a great communicator, and confident, and be confident with your ideas, but don't be attached to them. You know, if you feel like something is the right way to go and you've got research, you know, that can back it up, you have to be able to stand for that and let it go if it's ineffective too at the same time. So a great communicator who's a little quirky. There's a really great article that Forbes put out of how a creative director hires other people, and I actually just implemented in a recent interview the question of what's on your playlist. You know, somebody who's curious just about the world and listens to interesting things and wants to do neat things and travels places, like somebody who just wants to absorb the world, because that matters, like being up to date. What else do I look for? A strong design presence, without a doubt. Experience. You know, you can't walk into the field with experience. One of TVK's first projects was a free project for Brescia because we could take their logo and stick it right on our portfolio. But it was free, and that's what you have to do sometimes. But like, TVK does also hire people that don't have experience, that just seem like they've got that it factor. And somebody just passionate, committed about the work. So, you know, one thing for me is when I'm interviewing people, when they're doing charity work, when they're giving their time to groups to try to build a portfolio, I'm like, oh, they're hungry, they want this. So that's kind of what I look for in somebody in the field. And of course, a great portfolio, like a great design ability.
Yeah, That's great. And maybe, so go ahead.
Well, I was going to say that too, because we've been meeting with a lot of people, and I think one of the things that does stand out, it's this, I feel like it's still so young, and there's so much that you can learn online or go to workshops and, you know, build an app over a course of a couple months and do your own user research. Like there's so much out there to really learn on your own. And I think that's who stands out when they come in and they're just going for it, regardless of, you know, what schooling they've had. They look at Nancy because she's a really talented designer who's just so self-motivated to do it. While she's going to university, she's doing side jobs, and they're all beautiful. So this self-motivation and curiosity about, and really just wanting it and building something on their own, that to me stands out. Or like there is people in the studio that they're constantly looking for new ways to like share all their screen grabs or to try out to try out different things. So I gravitate to that too because there's just like this quench to like constantly be improving, constantly to get better. So you kind of just gravitate to people like that, and you want to learn from them too. So I think those people stand out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And Darla, you would have a slightly different experience with this because in your role, you're building a team that, if I understand correctly, they need to work with financial advisors, take their needs, translate them to digital. They might have a technical background or they might have a business background.
Right.
How do you find people to recruit? How do you recruit people in your team? What makes them stand out to you?
So for my team, they don't have it. They're not UX, right? They don't have a UX background. So for me, it is a blend of at least being able to understand what's happening in the digital world today, but a stronger mix of business savviness is what I'm really looking for, because we are the face out to the advisors, and for advisors, for financial advisors, it really is all about face-to-face relationships. That's how you build your credibility with them, right? That's why I'm on the road all the time. So you're looking at them face-to-face. That face-to-face is less important, I find, to folks that are playing in the digital space all the time. But as a consumer of your services, I would say that what is important to me to have confidence in what you're bringing to the table is the stuff that Melissa talked about, that it's, you need to be a really good communicator, and you definitely need to have strong facilitation skills, because if I'm in the room, as you know, right, I'm going to push back on stuff, and I'll never forget, I don't know if it was you or Sean or someone said to me in one of the meetings, we're not going to change it because you don't like it. We're going to change it if we don't get good feedback or our analytics prove that it's not working, right? So, strong personality to say, you might think you know what the advisor needs, but we're actually going to prove it out, right? So just that strength of character. I have noticed the quirkiness in the folks that come to the table, but at times, to me, that's, whether they're quirky or not, is obviously that's a good hiring trait, because the people that we're getting into our company are definitely talented.
Absolutely. That's really great. So that kind of is really great. Talked about quirky people coming into the company. You might be able to maybe start off this next question, because you've worked in an industry, and specifically in a company where their leadership, especially their senior leadership, is heavily male-oriented.
Yeah.
Maybe you could tell us a little bit about how that might have impacted your career path, or maybe how it made you think about your position within the company, coming from a very male-oriented company, but also the digital industry itself, working with software developers, working in the technical space can be, the gender imbalance can be quite large.
Absolutely. Early on in the career, definitely women were not, there just weren't that many women as software developers. We called themselves programmers back then. But and I saw them promoted faster if you had a conversation about salary. I mean, if you got to know somebody well enough, you actually shared that information. Always were making 20 or 30% more than we were making as women, and I would say that is probably still somewhat true today. Men are definitely making more money. Again, I would say one of the key things that changed for me was latching on to someone that could help me maneuver, how did they get ahead in the company? There's a recipe there. So you've got to find that person that can help you do that. I think in any industry, whether you're starting out, now would be a perfect time to find that coach for you at work. I would say what helps me is by luck or by design, I'm not sure. I'm a big golf nut, and in the insurance industry, that is a way. That is a way to them. And it is when I walk into a room and you're not sure what to talk about, you know for sure they golf, because that's where they are, right? They're on the golf course, having client meetings, doing whatever. But so when you can walk up and find something in common, it doesn't have to be golf, of course. But for me, that's been and many relationships have been built on the golf course. But finding that just common thing to talk to in this male world.
Yeah, and that's exactly why we want to have these sorts of events, to hear this advice. I think if you hear this sort of advice at an early age and you ask more questions of your mentors and try to create those relationships that can help you to break past some of those barriers.
Yeah, you've got to identify with someone and work with them.
Yeah, it's really great. I saw you nodding along there as Darlis was speaking.
I come from such a different perspective because I started the company. So I've had full control of where I want things to go. But I do see, without a doubt, when I'm going to pitch business or meet new people, it's mostly to a room of men, right? So I experienced this quite a lot. I thought about this question. My background is I actually have a degree in women's studies. So this is a topic I am absolutely passionate about. And, the degree is now a few years old and hasn't necessarily been used in the way I thought it would be used. But thing I am really passionate about. I think when I read the question, yes, there are without a doubt gender imbalances, but as a woman, if you can own what you bring to the table every single time in a meeting, I find it's been a huge advantage in tech. And it has not been a downfall in any way. One of TBK's first big clients was North Star Windows. And we were given the opportunity to pitch the leadership when they had already decided to go with another agency. They were really just honoring a promise. So and this is years and years ago, so I was even a little bit, not as confident, but and not as much experience. But they gave us the opportunity, and I knew I was walking into a room of people that had already decided to go with somebody else. They were just, being nice, which I don't even think would happen today. But so they brought us in, and we had a presentation walking through it, and there is a room of 11 men, blue-collared. They don't look too happy they're there because, they've already decided they're going to go with somebody else. And by the way, this boardroom table was still to this day the largest, most obnoxious boardroom table I've ever seen. It was a huge triangle that went all the way to that light. So we were hills away from So it was like we were not on the same team, and it felt like, it was such a distance. And we're going through the presentation, and they're like, we don't like this. You don't know our dealers. Half our dealers don't use email, and da-da-da. And it was going horrible. And one of the men said, you don't know Windows. You don't know Windows and doors. And you're totally right. I absolutely don't know anything about Windows and doors. But I'll tell you, I went to your website to try to learn about them, and I had a really hard go. And I didn't know the difference between a casement window and a single hung window and a double hung window, and I don't know what low E glass meant. And your website was a terrible experience for me that I left. I went to Google. I typed in, what is low E glass? And who came up? Pella. And I went to Pella's website, and their website is much better than your website. And so it gets really quiet in the room, and I said, am I not correct in saying that probably over 50% of all buying decisions are made by women, even in a traditional industry like Windows? Yes, great. Women cannot use your website. If any, and because, they're like, well, you have to learn 5 years of information. And I'm like, I learned very quickly. There's maybe 20 key terms I have to know, but what I do know is how to communicate effectively to have people take an action and to design an experience to make that happen. And it completely shifted the conversation. And to this day, in most industries, even in brick and mortar industries like windows and doors, women are the buying power. You are designing websites in many, many cases or experiences for women to make decisions. Hold on to that. that's you guys. I'm not saying you represent every woman in every different demographic or anything like that, but it's been such an advantage for me in the tech space because I think that I know I'm up against a lot of men often when I'm pitching, and it gives TBK such a great advantage. So something that can limit you can be your secret strength in a way that you didn't realize, because I didn't go into that meeting thinking that that's where the meeting or presentation was going to go, and we landed them, by the way. Wow. And yeah, so like I think what I see, a lot of women do it, and with my background and my studies, is women have a tendency to apologize a lot and to be super accommodating, and to be quiet in a room, and don't do any of those things. Like be loud in a room, but respectful. Have an opinion. Make sure people know that opinion. Because that's something that's going to benefit you significantly. Build confidence, whatever it takes to build confidence. Do that, because when you're meeting with clients, selling ideas, all of those things, to get your ideas actually completed and brought to the table makes a big difference. So I haven't experienced the same thing. I see it. I know it's out there. I'm in a very different position from that perspective, but I think there's a lot of power and experience you naturally bring to the table that shouldn't be forgotten about.
Wow, that was amazing. I hope someone tweeted that. That's really good. Okay, and maybe from a different perspective, Deanna, where you work at Res, would you say that it's a pretty fair balance? Or
actually, the majority of the team members are women.
Wow,
so
that's
we're
fantastic.
killing it. So it's very nice.
And Julie, have you found with your team?
Yeah, with our team, so a lot of the developers are males. Jenna, you're out there, but a lot of the designers are girls. We kind of have events, right? Yeah, I mean, it's a new kind of team. I think in my career, though, historically, the first studio I worked at was for 2 women that had started their own studio. So I've never thought of my gender as kind of like a hindrance or something that was getting in the way of anything. Never thought of it that way, really. So even today, I mean, I think you just kind of have to stay strong and be clear and state your opinion. If anything, it's just because I'm a little bit newer to the tech spin, I think that it's my hindrance more than anything, because I'm always questioning, and am I sure about this? But everyone seems quite new of it. So I never think just because I'm a woman means that I know any less than what's going on out there. And I've had a mix of male and female bosses, both strong personalities too. But yeah, I can hear what you're saying. I can't imagine to go in there and sell to a room full of, and you do a really good job of it, Ash. You should answer this question too.
Yeah, and actually, both Darlis and Julie work both for London Life. Yeah. So you might have seen more of the executive positions.
Yeah, that is the one thing. I see more as we hire more executive positions. It's like it's all men, which is too bad, because we did have a little bit more of a mix of women, and it's definitely to see them at the table and to look up to them too, right? Have someone, AVP or VP sitting at the table that's a woman and it's done it. So it's nice to have that within the company.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's really great. Our next question was, as we talked about our experience and how we got where we are now, and quite a few people in the room are new to the industry, they're students, or they're just getting started. We were kind of wondering maybe, how would you suggest that these people, they're just getting started in their career, maybe in UX or design or technology or whatever it is, how do they start getting experience? And Deanna, you might be a really great one to start us off at this. Like, how do you get your foot in the door? What did you do when you started to try to build your portfolio?
I know there's a lot being said about doing free work, and I think it's worth it if you are passionate about what you're doing, and if you're getting something in return. In my case, I didn't care about giving away hours of work, because I knew I was enjoying it, and I knew that it was giving me something back. I was becoming a better designer, and that's what allowed me to land a job, right? So really nice on you. If you find something you're passionate about and if you love it, you won't feel that, oh, I'm giving it away. It's totally good.
That's great. Mm-hmm. And I was actually asked Darla, so you started out as a developer and you moved into the business space and having to speak to users and then bring that information, like that user research essentially, into what is now being built for them digitally. How did you start to get experience or show your leaders that you were interested in that you wanted to move from traditional programming and software development into more of like a business space?
I'd say back then, actually, it was just a natural progression to go from, they had programmer analyst, and then the next one was analyst programmer, analyst, right? So you have to analyst, you knew you'd made it. Right? And, I think I said before earlier on that, I wouldn't say that programming or development was a real passion of mine. Passion came into that, working more closely with the business. And so as a developer back then, you did the work with the business. You were everything. You were the front end designer. You were the developer. You were the tester, the key person. You name it. You implemented it. You transitioned it to production. You trained business, and then you started all over again on some other project. So just through those activities and tasks, it was apparent to me that I aligned myself much closer to sympathizing, empathizing, wanting to add value to the business, and was less worried about, can we do that? It's like, well, this is a great thing that we should be doing, so let's find a way to do it. And then I always had that struggle with my IT peers around, but that's, extra 5 weeks of work or whatever the case. Maybe it's another $30,000, or it's like, but it's the right thing. So I would say just through a series of, progression through my career, it was just apparent that I aligned closer to them.
That's really great. Yeah. Any other thoughts on?
I'll just say a really quick one. When we're working with people or we're hiring people and they've had the opportunity to client face, it's such a bonus for us because they'll be able to better interface with our account managers. So go out there, do some work for a small business. They'll really appreciate it. Maybe you get some free pizza or what I mean. Like build some relationships so your time's not just being given away for free. But when you client liaison, you learn such a huge amount. And it's totally worth it despite how stressful it is. And you will learn a ton. So if anybody's getting out in the industry, just go work for a small business. You will learn a ton. And they will probably be your most challenging clients.
Yeah. And Julie, maybe a slightly different perspective. I know that recently you've been building a team, you've been looking at a lot of portfolios. What kind of work do you see in those portfolios? What are you looking for? Like, what kind of experience is it? Anything in particular?
I don't know. You just see a good portfolio, or just the one thing you do notice. You just have to show a variety of work, really. So, I mean, it's just like when I got out of school, you need to have so many pieces in your portfolio, and I only did it in a year, so you only have so many projects that you've worked on, so you have to make your own. A lot of the portfolios you're seeing are people that are just, looking at a cool app and then maybe looking at it and they want to make it better, so they redesign it on their own. So it's an interpretation of how they think they can do something better. I'm looking at it for a very visual perspective. I'm also looking at it for people that understand what UX is and who the user is and what their pain points are, and making sure they understand that whole story. But yeah, I mean, how can they get experience is just like what you said, going out and finding a passion project and creating your own, really.
Yeah.
It doesn't all have to be real work. Like Dribble, half of it's just people experimenting and throwing it on there, right? But it's just showing that you know how to put something together. You understand it's like the user focus that you don't, they have to be able to work with it. And now with things like Sketch and Envision, you can actually see what it's going to like. It gets so real, right? So, yeah, you can fake it out. Fake it out. Like, put it in your portfolio. It's great to have. If you're a junior, you're not going to necessarily get that real life experience, or you could try and make an app. I know Jenna had tried something like that too. So,
yeah, that's really great. And speaking of different technology and all of your experience in the industry, working in different aspects. Where do you maybe see things headed that you're excited about, or like working with different technology, or even from a design perspective? This question's kind of broad, but what's out there that's happening that you're interested to get into that space maybe you haven't tried out yet, or where do you see things kind of heading?
Virtual reality?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. we're really excited for that at TBK. It's something I'm really passionate about. I think it's going to change. I think it's going to take time to change, but I do think in the next 4 to 5 years, I'll be conducting business meetings in virtual spaces. I think that I'm going to be building websites that are 3D in nature that you can get into and touch in like a showroom, and you can do a 360 walk around, that dandy fridge and do some really fantastic things with. So right now we're single screen and we've related to everything as individual screens. And when the iPhone came on, it really, responsive web design was something everyone fumbled with until there were the right structures to do it properly and systems and to make it useful and to actually do it really well. We'll go through the same thing, but I don't think we're going to be thinking of screens as our environment now. I think we're going to be thinking, like you put on a virtual reality set and you're going to be walking around a showroom for a company, and that's going to be the website. So it's going to be really cool. I don't know what yet it's going to look like, but I think it's going to be a game changer.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really exciting industry that's starting to pick up speed. We see consumer available hardware that headsets and different things that are starting to become an everyday person. It's pretty incredible. Deanna, have you seen any trends that you're seeing kind of as a future?
I'm not sure because I'm sure in a couple of years everything is going to be changing drastically, but one thing that I'm really curious about, and it's about how much it's impact our processes. So we're seeing it right now where we're no longer this entity, like an agency is no longer working by itself. Like you're the client, you tell me what you need, I'll go on my own and work it out, and then here present it, and boom. It's more like collaborative work between the team and including the client. So we've talked about how we, in our meetings, we bring stakeholders together and all the people that are the decision makers, so that they feel like they're part of this thing that we're creating, and in the end they're not surprised, so they're wondering, why did you come up with this? So I think like everything is becoming more collaborative, and I don't know what's going to happen soon, but I'm really curious about it.
That's interesting. And Darlis, I know that like in your space, technology, like you were mentioning, the relationship between the advisor who's using the technology and their client, the technology somewhat takes the back seat. Do you see the technology in any way like facilitating different things or coming into the advisor's experience?
Yeah, I mean, it already is. I mean, we've got, I'm sure, have you guys heard of robo-advisor? I mean, that's already, front and center out there, and that's definitely got some folks worried around what that means. So robo-advisor is that automated advisor that, you don't want to have somebody come into your house, so you pick up the phone, you work with somebody like Simple, because they've been all over Twitter today announcing some stuff if you've been looking, but they're an automated investment advisor is what they are. And so that's, that got the insurance industry kind of, sitting up and taking notice. We're a very slow-moving, highly regulated business, and I think that, UX or digital or technologies are definitely going to move faster than what we as an industry can actually make use of, which is unfortunate. I also think that there will be some resistance with our clients and our advisors to make use of the technology, even if we can offer it. So even if we can absorb it at the pace that it's coming at us, our clients, the consumers, are becoming more and more aware of their personal data. Is it being protected? What's happening with it? How is a company using it? And we have all the ethical questions that we have to deal with on how should we be using your data. So it's great that everybody's walking around with their Fitbits and iWatches and we're capturing all of that data, but ethically as a company, should we be campaigning directly out to you? Should we be stalking you in that manner? All of that stuff's already happening, but we're years behind what other companies are doing in the insurance space, right? So it's definitely going to outpace what we can absorb. But I think that it will be met with resistance.
Absolutely. And you talk about robo-advisors and like that automated relationship. There was some news recently, like Facebook, I was looking at bots, and we have a Slack bot at work that we use a lot for communication, anybody who's on our Slack channel. You see that starting to come into the everyday life. People kind of start to expect that sort of relationship. It's really interesting.
Well, there's just a whole new generation too, because my kids wake up, there's no Lego on the floor anymore, there's just iPads in front of them. I'm like, okay, you need to start playing with other things other than that. But they're just interacting with screens so differently, and they're going to be dealing, like our storefront is going to be really like the technology that we're communicating through. So, you know, UX is user experience. It's not just screens. It's beyond that. It's holistic. It's within that. So I just see it growing, and I agree with everything that they've all said, too.
Yes, absolutely. It's an exciting space to be in, that's for sure. Everyone who's up here comes from a different background, a different experience. They've gotten to where they are, and you know, you're all specializing in interesting areas. How do you continue to grow your skills? Also, you talked a little bit about creating a Pinterest board and, you know, collecting and creating a little, like, I call it a swipe file. So I'm like swiping ideas that I see, and then I might use those in different ways, and I'm working on new projects. That's one way that I continue to reference new things. What kind of tools do you use or methods do you use to continue to grow your skills and see what's out there and stay on top of things professionally? Any thoughts on that?
I have a whole list of agencies that inspire me. So, you know, I'm always inspired by work that's really expensive to do. And then I bring it to my dev team and I ask, can we do this inside of this budget? And they're always like, are you kidding me? Like, no, we can't. But I would say, like, seek out groups that are doing just like really killer work. Digital telepathy, they're kind of a smaller group out in California. When I was on the hunt for the perfect project management tool that did every single thing that we wanted it to do, and I couldn't find anything, I started calling up U.S. agencies like that we'd never compete with, just saying, okay, I'm totally lost here. I think that, look, what do you use for project management? I called up this group because I'd been following them. I read all the blogs they release great blogs about very focused on user experience, about data and the data they're collecting and how they're making their websites better over time. Digital telepathy, they're really great. I love Fantasy Interactive out of FI, out of New York, and they have offices all over the world. And do we have clients that come to us with those budgets? No. And you may not either, but just little pieces of their work really inspire me. So I look at the best of the best, and I get inspired by that and hope that we can do some of that. So I just like to look at the best work.
Yeah, that's great. Any other thoughts on professional development or growing your skills or inspiration?
We talk about that a lot at work, and I'm kind of one of those people, I need to be in a project to actually practice or to learn something new. It has to be like a task in front of me, and then I'll figure out how to do it or research something that I need to. We share a lot in Slack channels. I guess I listen to talks, or I go to Design Thinkers, which is more print-based, a lot more UX. So I'm listening to other designers speak and constantly gathering stuff. But when I go home, I honestly don't think UX. I'm Pinteresting like my landscape design in my house, and other stuff inspires me. I just want to live my life, and that inspires me. So growing professionally is really something that I do kind of like 9 to 5 or 9 to 6, and occasionally on the weekends. But it's not something that I'm obsessed with all the time. We work with a group of, I think everyone in the UX industry is constantly reading and learning. It's so new still. It feels like everyone's just constantly like sponges absorbing all sorts of information. So, I can see what people are looking at work or in the studios, and they can send it over, and I can read articles that they've read. Since my job is so visual, it's really just like visual captures of what I'm looking at in trends.
Yeah. Would it be similar for you, or do you do anything else?
Yeah, aside from doing, keeping an eye on Dribble every day and all that, I always try to say no as little as possible, because when you're out of your comfort zone is when your true self comes out. So you might fail on something new, but sure, you're going to learn something about it. And yeah, that's the way I see it. Just have to step out of the box and try new things to learn.
Yeah, that's great. And Darlis, you lead a team. I've seen that your team's gone to conferences in the past and they do workshops and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
How do you make time for that? Like, is it like that's a priority for your team, obviously?
Yeah, it's a priority for us. I mean, so growing professionally at my stage in my career, so I'm getting closer to retirement. I would say early on, I did all the things that you guys are talking about, living and breathing the technology, trying to understand it, where is it going down the road. Not much changed in the mainframe world back then, but things are certainly changing now. But now growing professionally for me is really about making sure I'm well-rounded as an individual, so that I can bring a breadth and depth of experience out to my stakeholders, right? So I can have those conversations with my advisors or my executive vice president. So professional growth for me, I belong to a number of industry groups, so we can share information and what's going on in your company, my company, what kind of tools are you using? That's all great. But then there's the other aspect of growing my business knowledge or just my community. What am I doing out in my community? So I sit on a number of boards to help just grow what's happening. I happen to sit on the board for the London Family Court Clinic, which is just general interest for me, but it's exciting. It's about helping kids who are in the justice system because they've got mental illness, and of course these days physical and mental well-being is top of every company's minds, and they're all talking about that. So it's about all of that now at this stage in my career, but definitely early on, it really truly is about making sure you're learning as much as you can about whatever career you happen to be in. But I think as you grow, you need to make sure that it just takes on a broader perspective. Otherwise, you're going to find that you may become pigeonholed into a single career path, and think early on about what is it that you're trying to get out of your career, and make sure you're directing your professional education around that.
Yeah, I think it's a really great message. You articulated very well, and I think Melissa and Julie both touched on it as well. Even when you're hiring, you're looking for people that have started to explore and be curious about different things outside of this specific industry as well. Well-rounded perspective is very important. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's great. So now we have only a couple questions left. Thanks everyone for your patience. This is a lot of talking, I know. But now for the tough questions. What is currently your biggest challenge in your role or going on right now? Maybe a certain project, maybe a challenge that you are currently experiencing, and maybe how are you thinking about overcoming that challenge as well?
Oh gosh, I put enough thought into this one.
Any challenges come to mind that you've recently experienced or you're currently working through?
Right now, hiring is such a challenge. I think for TBK Creative, and for me personally, because I'm so tied to the company, it's hiring and finding people who are so passionate about the work and committed to the work, and want to push the boundaries and do big things and great things. So there's so much need in this industry. So you guys are so in the right industry at the right time. And I have an unusual amount of cousins, about 20 cousins. And they're like half want to be teachers. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Don't do that. Wrong industry to be in, for the next 10 years. But hiring. And I think that really shows you how wanted these technology products are. More groups are moving in-house. They're moving design departments in-house and UX departments in-house. And as much as that might be scary to an agency, I love seeing businesses care about it. I love seeing businesses go, okay, we don't have, this website that so-and-so out there manages. We actually have to invest in this thing because this is our business. We don't have a separation of showroom and then there's this website. They're all together. It's all the same thing, and I love I love seeing businesses do that and take it very seriously. So that, which is making it harder to find people. But yeah, I think for me personally, my biggest challenge is hiring. So yeah,
absolutely.
I would say our biggest challenge right now is helping our company understand. We all know we need to change, right? I mean, things are changing, for sure. But helping them understand at the pace at which we need to change now is a huge challenge. So again, slow-moving company, right? Insurance companies are slow moving. You can't continue to lag behind our competitors, so we got to get on with it. But the flip side of that is we're regulated. So not only are we fighting against our internal corporate culture, we're fighting against provincial legislation, and OSFI is our governing body that says you guys can't use cloud computing. Okay, well that's a bit of a challenge because everything is cloud computing these days. Everything's in the cloud, right? So so we've got those struggles that are happening on both sides, both internally and externally, that we have to deal with. So that's a huge challenge for us right now in order to continue to move forward.
We are making headway at cloud computing.
We are, but it just takes us 6 months to get there.
But yeah, absolutely. Working for a company that's heavily regulated and slow moving, and trying to bring in this user experience in this fast moving world.
Right.
And I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Deanna, any challenges that we're facing?
Sure. First is getting the buy-in. Like UX is sort of young still. It's like coming out. So to get companies to understand the true value of it, then that's the first challenge. And then once you've got that, we spend all this time doing the research and finding out what the users truly need, and then you do it and you present it, and there's still some stakeholders that say no, or I want my picture on my website. I'm lying, but sort of, like they want their way. So it's just trying to find that balance between making your clients happy, but most importantly, their users as well. So I think that's a big challenge, and I'm not sure it's ever going to go away, but I think processes are evolving to just diminish that,
Absolutely, yeah. I can definitely align with that challenge. Darla spoke to it before, is that, I think people, they go through their career, they get maybe where they are because they know so much about their business and their clients and their customers, that UX is kind of turning that around and saying maybe we don't know everything, maybe about this one specific piece. Yeah, that's interesting. Julie, any challenges that?
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge, for now, is definitely within the company, is that change management thing. But even more, we're getting so many requests. So building our team, and then building this brand new team, which is exciting. But then getting that whole process working is, I think our day-to-day challenge, or my day-to-day challenge right now, and keeping everyone happy in that environment is my main goal. So, not that it's much of a challenge right now, but yeah. And then I think another thing I was going to mention too, and I don't know, is work-life balance to me is a challenge. As become a new leader, all of a sudden your career becomes very important to you. And I have 2 young kids, so just making sure that I'm spreading myself evenly between work and home, and that I'm turning it off, which is harder to do now when I go home. So that's a personal challenge too.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, before we open the floor for questions and give everyone an opportunity to maybe pick your brains a little bit more, is there anyone wanted to share that maybe you didn't get an opportunity to speak to?
I would just like to, because I see myself in the position that a lot of people are right now, where looking for a job, looking to get into UX, but you feel like you're not qualified, and sometimes we don't apply to the jobs because we see the job description, and sometimes the job postings are ridiculous. And so you think yourself I don't fit in this description, I don't care about that. Just apply. Where's the worst thing that could happen is you get an interview, you practice your interview skills, and who knows, you may land the job. So just don't let this job posting scare you, just go for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of statistics, I think I read somewhere that when you see a job posting, only 60% of that is actually required skills to be able to perform in that role in a good capacity, and the rest of it is kind of your employer's wish list. If these things existed, I would hire them.
That's a true statement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for answering all of our questions for what we had planned. We wanted to make sure, as this is the panel discussion, it's meant to be interactive as well. So was there anything that you wanted to ask of the panelists? Feel free to raise your hand. And
we're talking about new technologies, and virtual reality is, is all around, getting to be all around us. One thing I came across, I wouldn't mind getting your opinion on, is holograms. I had seen a start on that when I saw online, and had the software, this little plastic four-sided structure, and there was a hologram in midair. It just freaked me out. I thought, wow, isn't that awesome? Like, I'd love to see that.
Yeah, I don't know too much about hologram technology. I've read a little bit about it. I actually haven't seen one in person, so I actually haven't seen it, so it would actually be kind of freaky. I think where we're going to be in 15 years is nothing like where we are now, like not even close. So everyone's in here for like a really exciting ride, not kidding you, you know, in your careers. But I don't know much about hologram technology, but I think it does tie into this. We've been very screen focused, even though the iPhone was an advancement in technology, it was still a screen, it was just a different size. Yeah. You know, it's still a screen. The hologram concept starts to make things real. And what I like about that is businesses have been unable to like touch their websites, you know, like they can't, like I get excited about the websites I build and I like save it as my desktop and look at it and stuff like that. But I'm like, but it's hard to, it's become more expensive than ever to do. And it's hard for some groups to look at it and go, well, is that a $500,000 project? You know, and you're like, without a doubt. Of course, for sure it is. Yeah, absolutely. Look how much money it's going to make you, you know. But for some people, this idea of a screen's been, like, they can't grab it. It's not, they can't touch it. And I think that's been such a hindrance in technology. But hologram technology and virtual reality, no, you can't touch it, but you're really tricking your brain into thinking you're darn close to touching it. You know, so that's what kind of, I think that is tied to the idea of like a 3D.
I kind of see it as a migration from a landline phone versus a cell.
Yeah.
Right? Where before you were stuck to that cord, now you can be anywhere.
Yep.
Yep. That's a really great question, and thank you. It's a fantastic answer. Any other questions that you had for the panelists? Yes?
A question. Do you think that there is a trend right now in user experience or the user interface? Do you find that there's a trend that a lot of companies are picking up?
I know just from doing design research, there's definitely a design pattern trend, which I was going to even put as my challenge because it seems like there's such an obvious, don't you find? Like,
format.
Yeah, format.
Yeah.
And we need to
Aesthetics.
move. That's a challenge, right? We really need to push that. Like you talk about pushing the envelope. We have to get out of that formula. Like big here, a jar 3 icon. And maybe some tiles, and we're done. And, I mean, there's definitely some websites doing something different, but yeah, definitely trends. And I just feel like people are just a little bit afraid to kind of move beyond the expected. And I think in the next 2 years, there's going to be a lot more pushing. So we can move away from that formula.
Yeah. Any other trends that you wanted to speak to that you may have seen? It's funny when you mentioned that because I think I saw someone tweet the other day, are you designing this website or this website? And I looked at something I was working on and I was like, oh no. It's interesting that you come from a print background as well because I'm on a trend recently where print design and print layouts are starting to come into web elements.
Yeah, I'm seeing that too.
Yeah, it's interesting. It all kind of ties together all those different experiences and well-roundedness.
Just one actually came into my mind, animated GIFs, even though saying the word sounds really old email with a cat doing something old email, and it's all pixelated, but there's some really cool things that you can do with animated GIFs in lieu of Flash and all the fancy things that groups used to do with Flash. I think that's a trend. I've seen it in the past. I've seen it actually for 3 years, but it was rare when you saw it, and now it's becoming a little bit more popular. And I think one trend that's going to become more common is this idea of relating to a website as a cinematic experience versus a flat experience. Thinking about it as if you're telling the story of a movie and thinking about it more like you're a producer. And I actually think, I really think more websites are going to be focused on really a raw experience, almost like a movie, more movement, more JavaScript and just really breaking the mold of what's possible and just more unique experiences, getting away from rotating hero banner.
Don't judge our creativity.
Don't do that. But I'm seeing that as a trend. I'm seeing a lot more cinematic experience. It costs more to do and it's harder to do, but it's really, really cool. So I like that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we probably have time for a couple more questions.
Quick question. I'm coming from a business background, so I'm looking to get into the industry. I do a bit of front-end consulting right now. But what would be something that you would suggest to me? Coursework? What can I get into to really immerse myself and be a really great candidate?
Great question. Do you mind if I ask you a few questions?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. So you're working with businesses right now, or?
Actually, currently I work for a nonprofit.
Oh, very cool.
However, I have done business like my background is
Yeah.
family business, but I've done a lot of things in my life that have kind of like changed the direction of it. I'm looking to do location independent.
Okay.
So I'm looking to get into more consulting work and
Yep.
then working with tech companies. So obviously in doing so, I need to up my game.
Yeah.
So what can I do to do that? What courses do I need to take?
Yep.
Can you suggest? How do I do that?
Fanshawe is a really great course. It's terrible I don't remember the name of it, but we hire out of it. And we grab interns out of it. Geez.
Interactive media.
Yeah,
Say you must
it's
know, actually.
yeah, it's interactive media. Liz Gray, she's fantastic. I would suggest taking that course. I think they've really made headway at Fanshawe and are producing some really great programs. Do that. I would continue consulting and create case studies. I did this, produce this. I did this, produce this. Because one thing I will say is bringing a business background to user experience does matter, because the business stake matters and process matters and can people use it matters, and all of those questions, really matter. And that is definitely something that a lot of people don't have the business background or experience with, that I think is very beneficial. So I would do that and just continue to immerse yourself.
No, how do you feel about like boot camps? Like, would you suggest doing one, like Lighthouse Labs, for example, is having one? It's going to be 2 days a week for 6 weeks. Would that be something that you would recommend, or would that not?
I'm not sure, to be honest. I think it would depend on the quality of it. I don't know. Can't speak to the quality of it. I do know the people I'm taking out of the Fanshawe program are really well-rounded.
Yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
I think that Julie mentioned it earlier, was that when you're looking to acquire like new talent, just that looking for curiosity and that you're trying new things and maybe putting your spin on things as well. You mentioned you saw some people that are looking at apps and their own spin on it. That sort of thing.
Yeah. I think a few of them, there were like programs out of Toronto, or it was more design based, I guess, workshop, but really user experience and interviewing people and then doing user testing. So if you're more at the business end of things, but you're wireframing too. So I mean, it's a whole experience, because the wireframing kind of goes hand in hand with the strategy. You really need to understand what the users need to use a website. So it's basically taking all your points and your strategy and the chapters of that book and then making it relevant online. So even some of that work would be probably useful, right, to understand the whole experience.
Speaking about hiring out of the Fanshawe Pro, we do too at Digital Kidna, and the one thing I noticed was that the people that come to Kidna, they don't have like a process behind what they do. And I'm wondering if they're learning that in the program, if they're teaching them, like, how do you come up with the solutions to your problems? What's the ideation? Like, what is the path to that? And it's interesting that a lot of them overlook that and kind of just jump in. They jump right to the computer, do something.
Yeah.
They don't do any sketching or any kind of ideation or research or anything like that. And I meet them at the Behance reviews, because I do the reviews, and same theme over and over again. They can't communicate how they got to what they have.
Yeah.
You just talk about what they have, but they don't say how they got to that.
I think that's an issue industry wide. The whole programming industry, development and website, like it's been a cowboy environment. It's been unregulated, and we have new regulations coming in: CASL compliance, IOTA compliance. It's going to continue to be more regulated. So we're being, dev agencies are kind of the government saying, okay, we have to do this now, we have to do this now. But I will agree with you. Process is something that I don't know is a strength of Fanshawe, and I will completely agree with you. I'm not too. I like to put people into our process, and I've seen kind of each agency has their own way of doing things. But I think what brings a unique product to the table, I think process is a huge part of that. But yeah, I would completely agree with you. Process is.
Do you think it's a byproduct of just technology? Like, we use computers for everything, right?
Yeah.
Like, no one.
Yeah, but it's like learning to draw before you use Illustrator, or learning how to do manual drafting before you use AutoCAD.
Yeah.
You need to have that basic understanding of the basic fundamentals.
Yeah. I would agree. I think each person we hire, even though Fanshawe is really great, we put a lot of time and energy into every single person that we hire. TBK does do interns too, but we take only maybe 2 interns at max, because it's so much time and energy that goes into people. I do think being very process focused, what's music to my ears when somebody sits down and meets with me, and it's probably similar to you, is not just here's my pretty portfolio, but I made these decisions because I did this and this and this and this, and that led me here. And as much as I love to get inspired by other great-looking websites, you can't go into an industry and see what I say this to clients all the time. They pull up, websites from their industries that we love that, and we love that. And I'm like, but there's no evidence to say that's good. Like, that's bad. Just because someone else is doing it doesn't make it good, and that's so very true online. I do really kind of love to hear the walkthrough. So little tip is, when you're meeting with people, walk how you got to where you are and what tools you used and what research you used. I would agree with you. I do think that that's lacking in the program. And as somebody who knows Liz Gray, do you know Liz Gray?
The program? No.
Oh, okay. So Liz Gray, I think I don't know if she's the lead, but she's one of the teachers in that program. She's very influential. And I think I'm going to share that with her. I hadn't thought about that, because I just made an assumption nobody's learning any process. We had to build our own. Nobody taught us either, really. And we had to stumble through that, too.
I think it's harder, too, because the technology and everything is evolving so rapidly that for one and it also depends on the projects. Like, for certain projects, this process, you don't touch it and it's perfect, but for some others, you have to just pretty much improvise and change things here and there. So it's hard to just have a perfect process that you follow every time.
Yeah.
And maybe it's like a case study, right? You're doing this, and then you're writing down. I know we've talked about this. It's like a case study. What's the problem? How did it fix it?
Yeah.
How did it get fixed?
Absolutely.
I think it's nice.
Good question.
More of it.
But you
Thank
can't
you very
really
much.
do them dribble too much. You gotta use Behance or something.
Behance is great. You can't explain your problem on
I was
Behance.
talking to Julie about that before, but the difference.
A huge difference.
So I guess.
Yeah. Well, we wanted to thank you so much for being here with us tonight. We have a little thank card for everyone, and it was incredible hearing some of the things that you said. I wish that I was live tweeting this event, but I'll share what everyone else said afterwards. But it was just, even just personally, it was immensely valuable, and thank you so much for spending your evening here with us. We know that we took some time away from spending time with your family, but we all thank you so much, and we really appreciate it. This sort of involvement with community groups like this gives us all the ability to share in your experience and the lessons that you've learned in your career. So thank you again. And the panelists will be here for about 10 more minutes as we're kind of leaving and cleaning up. So, Derek, was there anything that you wanted to say as people?
Yeah, I wanted to hand out some random shirts here for completely random reasons.
Okay.
It's kind of the way I roll. So I think I'll go you one.
Me?
Yeah, just make this stuff.
There's not even a question. It's
No, Cora.
I know the reason.
I met Cora before, interviewed her a while ago. Didn't hire for the position at all. I kind of feel like I'll wear a shirt. Who has a birthday that's really close to December 9th?
Oh.
So what's yours? Oh, that's pretty close. Can anybody, without going over, it's like Price is Right rules. You go over. Good. It's a little big. Pajamas, whatever. Lounging around on a Sunday afternoon. I don't would that be another completely good random reason to give away a shirt? I can just I'm getting married! Why not? There we go. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Woo! There you go. Me and you. Good. Enjoy. That's a ladies'
Just a few things that we'd like to mention before we wrap up. First is that we're on Slack. We've created a Slack group for Ladies That UX London, Ontario. We already have some members on there and we've started some good conversations. So the point of it is so that we can continue these conversations and continue learning from each other online in between our meetup group sessions. Also, so if you're interested in signing up, you can sign up using one of the sheets over in the other room, or you can reach out to us either on Twitter, Facebook, or through our meetup page, and we'll get you connected and set up with it. Also, we have the next 2 events planned for May and June. They're going to be sponsored by Infotech Research Group. So you can RSVP to them using our meetup page. So May's event is going to be a social and lightning talk presentation. So we're looking to you guys, our members, to volunteer and give a lightning talk. So a lightning talk is just a 5-minute presentation about a UX related topic that you're interested in or very passionate about. So a couple examples are, it could be about personas, it could be about user research, it could be about particular design patterns that you're interested in, or it could be about coding. So anything UX related is free game. So if you're interested in volunteering, again, please reach out to myself, Kathleen, or Ashley, and we can get you set up with it. And the next event that we're going to be having in June is actually going to be our very first workshop, which is going to be around the topic of how to run a design sprint. So it's really exciting. Very first workshop. It's going to be over a weekend, or it will be not on Tuesday, but it's actually going to be on Saturday. And just wanted to finish off by saying thank you so much to our panelists. We really value your time, and hearing these great insights from your experience has been wonderful. I have a notebook full of different ideas that I got from you guys through this panel discussion. And so just want to mention to our members, to anyone, if you're listening on our recording or in person, that we heard a lot of great advice here today. We've seen that no path is the same in UX. These ladies all came from different backgrounds and kind of found their way to UX in their own way. And tons and tons of great advice that was shared. And what I'd like to challenge you to do is to take a look and reflect on what we heard here today and pick one thing that really resonated with you and that you'd like to take and start doing right away, whether it be tomorrow or start next week, but just pick one thing that you can start doing and start implementing from this talk. And I really think that's going to help give you some value and get some really great benefit from this panel discussion. So that's it for me. Thank you.
Great. Well, thank you so much. I'm so glad you wrapped things up. That was really good. Okay. And if you do that, feel free to share that with us on Instagram. We'll retweet that so our panelists can see that their advice is helping you in some way. I'm sure that'd be very valuable for them. So thanks, Sam. For real, good night. Thank you.